Hey, Railheads! You may have seen me do the wet on wet painting technique that I learned from Boomer. And like Boomer, I always use Vallejo Model Air paint. But a viewer asked me the other day if he could use cheap craft paints instead. Hey, great question. I told him I'd try it and record the results. So let's go. I'm a Finger Lakes Railway layout. Well, I bet a lot of you guys have a box of craft paints like this sitting around. I used it before I knew about Vallejo and Tamiya. I used to think painting a model was like painting a wall on your house. You wanted good coverage, and sometimes you needed a second coat. But painting on a model railroad is just the opposite. You want underlying coats to show through a little bit. I got a scrap piece of styrene here, and I'll give it a couple coats of a light gray craft paint for a starting point. This isn't the wet on wet here yet. And I'm putting a heavy opaque coat on here so the bare white plastic doesn't show through. I'm thinking this was probably something like what some people would have, like my viewer has for a road that he needs to correct the color on. And you always want to avoid hard lines. You want soft transitions between random shades, and that's where the wet on wet technique really shines. Okay, we got our base coat of light gray down. Now it's time to add a slightly darker shade. But first, we really got to thin this craft paint out with plain tap water. Well, I guess if you add a lot of water to your paint, it dilutes the color as well as the viscosity. Dang it. I'm not sure I'm even qualified to be doing a video about paint, but I'm not going to let that stop me. Let's push on. Now, here's the star of the show. It's a wetting agent or a surfactant, and that's just something you use to break the surface tension of the water so it doesn't bead up. Remember Rain-X? You didn't even need to use your windshield wipers. The water just flowed off the windshield. It was wild. But I use this Vallejo flow improver just because I already had it. Boomer uses the golden wetting aid. Some guys add a little dish soap to water, but that might cause a lot of bubbles, but you could try it. And now add some of your wetting agent to some plain tap water. Stir gently and wipe a good bit on your model. Okay, here's where I'm realizing that my darker shade of gray is now the same as the lighter shade. Oh, jeez. Okay, now I got an even darker shade, and I'm going to add it to the lighter stuff. Now let's try this again. I'm just flinging some big drops of it on the test piece. Just kind of random. And this is my same homemade wetting agent. Not using any isopropyl alcohol here. You could try it, but not sure how it would react with the paint and the flow improver. And I'm just giving it some good spritzes here just to get the paint moving around. Again, random is the key word here. Let it go where it wants to go. See what it does. I'm going to give it a little bit more here now. That's looking pretty good. We just need to let it dry now. Oh, look, you can see that water is starting to run over to the right. We're not on a level surface here, and that's making it kind of hard to control things. I may have to come up with another test piece and do some more of it inside on a flat, level surface to get the good results I'm after. Okay, I painted a base coat on another test piece last night, and let's try this again without the cardboard and see if we have better luck. And you see how you can brush the water around with the flow agent? And look how the regular plain water just beads up. It kind of looks like I'm doing shots of chocolate milk, right? This is the same color paint we had going there last time. I covered it up with some plastic wrap overnight so it wouldn't get funky and dry out on me. But there's enough water in there, I don't think it would. I'm using the spray bottle to move the paint around on the wet surface. It's better to do that than take a brush, I think, and try to push it around. You'll get a lot softer transitions doing it this way. You won't get those hard lines. When I do use a brush, I'll use more of a tapping or a patting motion as opposed to a brushing motion. You can knock down any of the big bubbles and kind of move the paint around a little bit by just tapping on it. And now we'll just let this dry. It shouldn't take too long to dry. It's in the upper 70s today. Nice breeze. And I can do other stuff while I'm waiting for this. Hey, I just watched a short video that Boomer posted yesterday. Great timing because I had my test piece sitting there on the workbench. And he was using watercolor pencils on his wall, on his D-Day diorama. And so I gave it a shot. I think there's some great potential here. One thing I noticed, though, it was really easy to scratch that craft paint right off the styrene. Oh, hey, my wet on wet test piece is dry. Now this is just a light gray base coat and then a wet coat of darker gray. And you could certainly add more shades and more layers. But the question is, does the wet on wet technique work with cheap craft paint? Yes, but not as well as the Vallejo Model Air. Why? I think it's all about the pigment. The pigment in the craft paint is weak to begin with, and by the time you thin it down enough to work with this method, it's really weak. The Vallejo has great pigment and doesn't require thinning, but it's about $3.50 a bottle. And you really don't have to use that much of it. So if you got an old shoebox full of craft paint, get some wetting agent and give this a try on a piece of scrap styrene first. It takes a while to get the feel of it and get in the zone, but you'll end up with some nice subtle random shades. Well, I'll just close with some more of the watercolor pencils. Oh, and you don't need these AK weathering pencils. Just any watercolor pencil should do the same thing. I just already happen to have these. They're a lot of fun to mess around with. Hey, thanks for watching, everybody. Take care. See you next time.